Lineage Project brings mindfulness practices like meditation and yoga to incarcerated and at-risk kids in New York City. So we work in the Department of Juvenile Justice centers. We work in a couple of schools, in some alternative to incarceration programs. If we're in a detention center, then we have kids who are roughly 12 to 15 years old. In New York, you are an adult at 16, so we don't see those kids when they're actually locked up. And we either go to the hall where the kids are living, and they'll have like a big common area, or we'll be sometimes even in the gym, and they'll bring the kids to us. So we'll start usually in a circle with a question that we ask the kids to think about, sort of an opening, and we tell them who we are and what we do and why, and then we ask them to think about something in their own lives. Like we have asked kids to think about something that they're fearful of, or a way in which they're strong. So it's sort of we'll have a theme for a class, and then we'll set the context for that theme with this question. And it moves on to a little bit of discussion and some physical practice. Maybe we might get one sun salutation and a couple of other poses in. And then we'll do a short meditation practice, either sitting or sometimes walking. And then we'll close. So the whole thing on a perfect day takes an hour, but sometimes we only get 40 minutes or 30 minutes, depending on what else is going on. I think the kids get out of it the idea that they have choices, that they have the ability to influence the way that their lives go. A lot of kids that we see don't feel like they have choices. They talk a lot about how, something happened to them, or even maybe the offense that they're in, they were picked up for, that they're incarcerated for, it wasn't their fault, they didn't have any choice, they had to do this. And these practices are a way of young people, and really any people, figuring out that the things that you do for yourself do matter, and the things that you do for your mind matter and for your body, so that you can then maybe use some meditation techniques to keep yourself from getting into a situation where you would be picked up by the police and end up back in the DJJ. I mean, many kids over the past 5 years have told me that they've been able to control their temper by breathing, by paying attention to their breath. That's a big one. Any way that you can calm yourself down, which is really, a lot of times we go in under the banner of stress management, and so any way that you can use a breathing technique or a meditation technique, or even a yoga posture to calm yourself down, and take a breath before you react to something that happened, then that's really the way that they would use it. It's the way we all use our practice, I think. It's great to have a really meaningful practice when you're in a room full of other practitioners and you're on your meditation cushion, or you're in a yoga studio, but really where our practice matters is when we're out on the street and someone cuts us off with their dog's leash, and someone else sort of jostles us on the subway. That's really when the practice matters. Mm-hmm. I've had kids who don't participate at all in class, but might sit and watch, and then after a few times they'll tell me that they have tried stuff when I'm not there. So there's something about not wanting to do it in front of me or in front of the other kids. Some of them really take to it right away, and become, pretty wrapped up in it. I've had last summer had a kid, and it was probably there the fourth time, and when we were about to meditate, and he said, "This is the part where we just sit and open our minds." But a lot of kids need a little more time with it, and so I think that many of them eventually come to understand the value of it, but but it could take some time. But on the other hand, it's not rocket science that we're bringing them. So they get it pretty quickly, and I think that sometimes they might appreciate it more than they let on as well. Like with the kid who was doing it when I wasn't there. I really love to hear people talk about ways that they stayed out of trouble. Like we had a kid in a site a couple weeks ago who came to class, and he had gotten stopped by a cop on his way to class, and so it was very clear to him that he was able to calm himself and not talk back to the cop and not get in trouble. And so he ended up, he was stopped, but he was let go when he made it to class. And he said, a few months prior, he might have mouthed off a little, might have been detained. I mean, maybe wouldn't have been arrested again, but would definitely have been more involved in that situation. So those kind of stories, I always love to hear them.